All right, let's go. Well, Tim, I'd have to say that memorial they had at Ottawa was one of the best. It brought tears to my eyes, I tell you that.
Yeah, yesterday was November 11th.
Yeah, November 11th.
And Remembrance Day in the U.S. was Veterans Day.
Poppies, it started in World War I, and 650,000 went to war. Over 10% were killed. That's 66,000. And another 72 were wounded.
172,000 were wounded, yeah.
172,000, that is more than all of World War II.
And then they did the poppies because of Flanders Fields, right? The poem.
Yeah, and it was really something.
Well, you and I, how many years ago, we went to see Vimy Ridge.
Yeah.
Which is the battle that people say...
You know what I find that strange there, Tim? There wasn't one person on Vimy Ridge. There wasn't one...
Yeah, we went there, and they didn't close it for us.
No.
And we went there, and we were the only ones there.
We were the only ones there. I had two family members die, and then...
Well, we found his service record. You should read that.
Yeah. It was Thomas Mackenzie and Thomas William Mackenzie.
He was a sergeant, right?
Yeah, he was a sergeant, and they were occupying the position of Southwest and Hague Court on the night of the September 2nd, 1918. His battery was subject to a heavy shell fire. A shell entered the dugout, which he was occupied, and severely wounded in the head and right shoulders. His wounds were dressed, and he was taken to the field hospital and evacuated. He later died. I thought the memorial was... I thought it was the best one. I remember when I was there a long time ago, and I was the only one watching. And it was sad to see. Boy, they were packed there yesterday.
Yeah. You know, the one thing I really found interesting one time was we went down to see your brother, Richard, Uncle Rich, and he had a diary of one of
I must read that diary.
And it was just amazing how... I don't know what the word is. Like they talking that they went out and the Egas and the Jerrys, fired a few shots at us to keep us honest. Like it was really unbelievable writing about what was going on back then.
You know what got me was it was such writing.
Oh, the penmanship is just unbelievable.
The penmanship was unbelievable. And I think it'd be scribbled in there.
No, it was neat, and it was like right online and everything like that. So, but I got to say, Dad, around Mississauga, didn't see a whole lot of poppies. And I think,
and I have to say on TV, I hate to say this, but it's the truth. The wardrobe, the lady has a big pile of, and they just shove them on those. That's why you see them on everybody on TV.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It'd be interesting. We have a lot of listeners in the UK. It's Canada, United States, and the UK. And so anybody that's listening in the UK, send us a note on Twitter or on our Facebook page if there's a lot of poppies in the UK. That would be interesting to know.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Because in Mississauga, there certainly was not.
No, I'm afraid to say it.
So, Dad, last night, lots of games going on. We watched the Bruins in Edmonton and Toronto. We were flicking back and forth. And the funny thing was we were kind of watching the UFC and Donald Trump walking into the Madison Square Garden.
Boy, wasn't that something, him walking into that...
It was, because the first thing I thought is there was no Secret Service around him. He just was walking into Madison Square Garden. The place just went nuts.
And just went... And he's shaking hands with people, and I never saw any guys protecting him or anything like that. He was the first guy.
He was the first guy out. Boy, he saunters good.
No, he looked good, and he looked good too.
Yeah, he does a great saunters. But we watched a lot of games. So, what did you think about last night? This is Sunday morning.
Well, I don't think it was a good game, but
which game?
Edmonton game. I watched that, and
I felt, what, I really felt bad when they lost to San Jose, and Jay Woodcroft and Manson were walking off, and he looked and he said, "Well, I think that's it." And so you feel like he's got the sword of Damocles on his head, but
McDavid never scored, and neither did Drysdale, and then 2 other guys scored.
Yeah, Hyman scored, and you got a hat trick. So though, Dad,
And Jack Campbell got sent down.
Yeah, that's tough.
He had the one good year. Remember?
With the Leafs, he had the one good year.
And then that was it.
So let me ask you, Dad, when you were coaching Boston, like Edmonton's in a funk. Even though they won last night, they're pretty much in a funk. And you were with the Bruins. You had a 6-game winning streak, and then you guys went into a funk. I think you guys were like 2-15 or something like that.
I tried to tell him. And it's tough to tell somebody when they've won 6 straight. They kind of looking at their nails and do.
But how do you get out of it?
I don't know. I don't know how we got out of it. We kept plugging away. Harry didn't know. He didn't have a guy ready for me. I thought I was done then. And I remember he had a meeting. He had a meeting with the guys, and they were all in this little room. And he went on and on and on and on and on. And it's supposed to be the coach is supposed to say, "Come on, all right, guys, let's go, get ready for it." Not a word. And
so he just kind of kept going and going.
He just kept going and sweat. And he had a light. I remember he had light blue shirt on, and sweat started to come.
Well, yeah, because if you ever watch the '72 Summit Series, you see Harry sitting behind the bench, the sweat stains coming through his jacket and stuff like that. But so you just gotta.
I don't know. We just started it, and you know what I remember. In that thing, I remember Matty Hagman, and Matty wasn't one of my favorites, but he was looking at the guy, and he just happened to look to his left like that, and just as he looked to his left, as the puck come on the guy's stick, and the guy went in for the tying goal. God, I think we tied a game, and then.
So, like last night, Woodcroft, he kind of gave a couple of shots to the goalies on posting.
No, it wasn't our goaltenders.
No, but I'm saying, like, what did you give the players heck, or did you?
Terry O'Reilly said the strangest thing. He said when we were winning, he was the hardest on us when we were winning, and when we were losing, he was almost fragile. He says he was like our mother when we were losing, because nobody likes to lose. That's the way you have to treat it. But anyhow, that's the word that Terry used, and he said it was almost like our mom.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you say, I don't think like the Oilers. They're not. It's not like they're not trying.
When you see the guys not trying, then you know you're in trouble.
So we watched a bit of the Leaf game last night. How about Giordano going after that big guy at Vancouver?
Hey, I'll tell you one thing. Not that you don't know how tired you are after a fight like that. He looked like he was pretty tired, especially a big guy, because the big guy, he was just standing there holding and for a while. But I'll tell you one thing, that when they could use Reeves, they didn't dress him.
Yeah, I think they're using Reeves as a little bit of the whipping boy.
Yeah,
in the media. I mean, I remember the one time we talked about Mike Christie. Every time in Colorado, Mike Christie was on the ice, Hardy Ashram would let in a goal and he was minus. And that's what's happening to Reeves in that game against Calgary. Stepped on the ice and it wasn't his fault, but boy, there was a camera on him.
There was a camera on him, and put the camera on him, and because it's his fault. It's not his fault at all.
No, one went off, 2 guys that went in. But that the Leafs kind of look. You know what I think the pattern the Leafs are doing is they play good against good teams, and they're not up against the weaker teams.
That is a bad sign, because we used to just mop the floor. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign when the team gets up and then gets down, up and down, up and down. Yeah. It's not good. And
I'll ask you, like, you kind of had this. Oh, and by the way, Cindy's taking a day off. That's why Cindy's not talking here. That when you first went to Boston, you had Phil Esposito, who had 72, was it 75 goals and then 62?
60, I think 65.
And then you had Bobby Orr, who first year was a defenseman and led the league in scoring. Did the other guy, did you lean on them too much? Because that's what, PK Subban said. He thinks that Keefe relies on Marner and Matthews.
Well, I think they do. And we used to rely on Bobby. And we had 100 points. I think I was 99. Anyhow, Bobby Orr, he played every game.
Yeah.
And
But then when Bobby left, and you know what I read in the paper? I was just kind of going through a thing. When Bobby Orr went to Chicago, that Harry Sinden sued the Chicago Blackhawks trying to get compensation back.
well, something for him. We got nothing for him. I heard that this is what I heard, is that they got the franchise in Chicago.
Yeah, they got the concession stands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
And that's where they make all their money now. Called Delta something.
Anyhow, we didn't get anything for him.
Yeah, but like when Bobby and them left, and Bobby and Phil left, then you really you had like a 4-line team.
And anybody could have coached them after a while because it just kept rolling and rolling. But I used to put Marcotte on. If a line was going bad, I'd switch Marcotte on that line. I keep seeing me be talking a lot about Marcotte.
Yeah.
But
because we talked about it before, but you had 11 20-goal scorers, so that's everybody on the first 3 lines getting 20 or more goals.
Yeah,
and then
Park,
one defenseman and one guy on the 4th line. So you just, no matter who you threw out there.
Well, yeah, I remember one time in Buffalo, the guy thought I put on Rattel, Schmatz, and Marcotte, and they thought that was our checking line. So they take off the French connection. And he said, Tabernacle, the Goalies.
Yeah, Rene wasn't too happy. Rene Robert.
And when they take them off. So I just left Rattel's line out there.
Yeah. Was that the time they got the 3 stars in Buffalo and they locked arms and they skated around like figure skaters?
Somebody said, Schmatz, I think Schmatz, he said, watch what we do. It was Shepard, Schmatz, it was all small guys.
Shepard, Schmatz.
I don't know. Oh, and Marcotte didn't want to do it, but he did it anyhow. It didn't look very good.
Well, they came out and they were like kind of like they were arm in arm skating around.
Yeah, but it didn't look very good.
No.
And we used to have fun. I remember one time when up in the sign and beautiful signs. They used to have signs all over the place.
Oh, Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah, and one of them had Cherry and Winsink, Goon with the Wind.
yeah, Buffalo. That was. People don't realize that back then Buffalo they had 90 points every year.
Yeah, and they had a good club. They really had a good club. We were in fight with them all the time. So they had a real good club. And should you tell that story about the punch when he left early?
Yeah, we told that before. That's a funny story.
We told that story.
But that's a funny story. You should tell it. So the game was in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
And Punch Imlach was
And he was Buffalo. He drove over.
Was he the coach or the GM?
No, he was the GM.
GM. And I think we were tied or 1 point ahead of them or something like that in the standings. And we were losing in Toronto 5-3 with about 2 minutes.
And they would have caught us.
Yeah, about 2 minutes to go, and Punch leaves.
And by the time he got to the parking lot, the guy said, "Gee, that's too bad, Punch." He says, "What do you mean it's too bad?" He says, "That's too bad about the Boston Bruins winning." No, they did. They were losing 5-3. By the time he got to the parking lot and talked to the guy, because the guy was listening to it on the radio, he said, "Too bad."
Yeah, it was what
I never forgot that game.
Yeah, Dougie Hallward scored to make it 5-4.
Matty got a goal.
Matty Hagman got a goal to make it 5-5. And then was it Donnie Marcotte?
Donnie Marcotte got the goal.
Got the winner.
Yeah.
And like about within 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. It was something. And I always remembered that game.
So, Dad, we'd like to thank a sponsor we have, Vintage Tendy Magazine. It's a magazine for goalies, by goalies, and it has all
pictures on it are unbelievable.
It is a great magazine, unbelievable picture, super high quality. And if you have a man cave, you want to get them because you'll be all your buddies will be looking through them during the game. 4 issues a year, and this latest issue has Clint Malarchuk on the cover, and you have some stories on Tretiak. Yep. If you want some more information, visit Vintage Tendy. That's VINTAGE, Tendy, TENDY, magazine.com to subscribe, or visit them on their Facebook, Vintage Tendy Magazine. It's great. And speaking of vintage goalies, Dad, John Perry from Whitehorse in the Yukon wanted to know if you know any stories on Dunc Wilson, who was a goalie.
Well, I knew some stories, but I wrote them down. Dunc was from Toronto, played 10 seasons in the NHL for the Flyers, Canucks, Leafs, Rangers, Pittsburgh. He sure jumped around anyhow. He played 290 games and 8 shutouts. He got the first shutout in Canucks history.
Did he really? Wow.
Yeah. And a nothing tie against the Leafs with Perrant in the net. I wrote all that stuff down so I wouldn't forget it. When playing for the Rangers, the fans really gave him the business after a goal. He skated out of his crease and took off his glove and gave the middle finger to the New York fans while doing a pirouette.
Yeah.
Is that what you say? How do you say that, pirouette?
Pirouette.
Was a bit of a wild guy, had one of those goalies are a free spirit vibe anyhow. And he used to, I remember Bobby Schmotz used to do this too. He used to get into a wheelchair in the airports. And I used to say, you shouldn't do that because that's,
Bad mojo.
It's bad doing that. And by golly, he got his knee all wrecked. I remember Scott Garland was the guy that hit him, I think.
Yeah, at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah.
Schmutzy was cutting across
Yeah,
center. So you were saying that, Dunc Wilson used to do that and drive John Ferguson nuts.
Yeah, and boy, and John Ferguson would go wild because we belong in the old school that if you fool around in a wheelchair and everything like that in the airports, that you're going to get it next.
Well, I remember superstitious-wise that I hurt my ankle and I was on crutches, and you wouldn't let me come to practice or let me come into the dressing room. You said, nope, you can't come until you're off the crutches.
No. And what's funny thing is, when players get hurt, they stay away from the dressing room. They come in after everybody's left. I remember Bobby Orr, and I won't say it again, but Bobby Orr, would never come in with the players, and he'd ride the bike. Funny to see Bobby Orr. I think we didn't want him back. And I remember he used to come in and ride the bike.
Yeah. So I remember one game, we were talking that one game that Dunc Wilson played against the Bruins in 77, and the Penguins should have won that game, but Jerry Cheevers always played good in Pittsburgh.
Always. Yeah, I don't know why. I remember one time, I think I told a story, but I'm going to tell it again, that Gilles Gilbert, we won our first 2 games, and Gilles Gilbert was supposed to play the 3rd game, and he got the hives.
Yeah.
I remember Danny coming to me and says, "You better get Jerry right." I think Jerry had a Coke and pop. Anyhow, it was the greatest game he ever played.
Yeah, but Dunc Wilson was in net in that game that they played in 77. It was just a regular season game. And they outshot the Bruins 42-31, and it was a 2-2 tie. And
Cheevers always played good in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and John Rattel, Matty Hagman scored for Boston, and Sil Apps and Pierre LaRouche scored for...
He was living in Honduras and...
living the life on the beach.
On the beach.
Yes.
He's having a good time. Well, Tim, we had a good day yesterday. It was Saturday. The under-17 won, and...
Yeah, that's a... Just to give people a turn, what that is, it's the world's under-17, and so it's kids 16 years old. So they're the kids that they're mostly all drafted by the OHL. Some are playing, some aren't, some are in midget. But Canada's so strong that we usually send at least 2 teams over. So Team White won, beat the U.S. And so, 3-2, I think it was, and I like it that they have in that tournament overtime. It's 3-on-3 till you score.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, and
I love the 3-on-3. I don't like the shootout. The shootout was okay when it first come up for a while,
yeah.
But I like the 3-on-3.
Well, like last night, Boston, Montreal. How exciting was that 3-on-3?
Oh, hey, Dinah, that was an exciting game. Well, Tim, I'd like to end on Ottawa and a memorial down there. It was unbelievable, and I hope everybody remembers and appreciates all the guys that died